Hey guys, what's up? Derek here from Bomb Socks with a new week of Bomb Bites where we feast upon the words of Christ and we do it one bite at a time. So this week there's some cool stuff going on. We get to talk about the redemption of Zion. Now, in order to understand what the redemption of Zion really is, we need to backtrack to section 101 for a minute. Now, we talked about 101. That's when I did my Friday's episode. It was like 15 minutes, but it turned out pretty good as far as why the Lord allowed the saints to go through the difficulties that they went through. So at the end of section 101, and there's literally 101 verses in section 101 towards the end of it, and this is going to set up where we're going this week. There is a parable, and we didn't talk about this, and a lot of times we kind of gloss over this parable, but it's a pretty important parable to understand what happens this next week. So I like to call this the parable of the why, because this last week they were like, why are we going through these persecutions? Why are you allowing us to go through these things? And the Lord's going to say, well, let me explain to you why. So it starts in verse 43, and I'm just going to read it to you, and we're going to see why the Lord allowed them to go through all this and what his plans for them are. So starting in verse 43, and now I will show unto you a parable, keeping in mind that Jesus Christ is the master teacher of parables. He did it back in New Testament times, and he does it now. That you may know my will concerning the redemption of Zion. This Jackson County, Missouri, all of these saints there. A certain nobleman had a plot of land, very choice, and he said unto his servants, Go ye into my vineyard, even upon this very choice piece of land, and plant 12 olive trees, and set a watchman round about them, so someone to watch what's going on, and build a tower. Okay, a tower and a temple can be very synonymous at times. That one may overlook the land round about, to be a watchman upon the tower, that mine olive trees, meaning my people there. You read about the allegory of the olive tree in Jacob chapter 5. The olive trees are the children of Israel, right? That my olive trees may not be broken down when the enemy shall come to spoil and take upon themselves the fruit of my vineyard. Now the servants of the nobleman went and did as their Lord commanded them, planted the olive trees, built a hedge round about, set watchmen, and began to build a temple. That's a key element right here. So they got everybody in Jackson County, started to build everything, began to build that tower. And while they were yet laying the foundation thereof, they began to say among themselves, And what need hath my Lord of this tower? Like, what? Why are we doing this? And consulted for a long time, saying among themselves, What need hath my Lord of this tower? Seeing this is a time of peace. Now you remember back in the beginning of this section, the Lord was, in the day of their peace they esteemed lightly my counsel, but in the day of their trouble, of necessity they feel after me. So it's like, why should we build this? This is a time of peace. Verse 49, Might not this money be given to the exchangers? For there is no need of these things. And while they were yet at variance with one another, they became very slothful, which is what the Lord accused them of before. And they hearkened not unto the commandments of the Lord. And the enemy came by night and broke down the hedge. And the servants of the nobleman arose and were frightened and fled. And the enemy destroyed their works and broke down the olive trees. So you saw that happen in the last few sections of the Doctrine and Covenants in church history, how the enemy came in and just destroyed Zion. Now behold, the nobleman, the Lord of the vineyard, called upon his servants and said unto them, Why? Again, this is the parable of the why. What is the cause of this great evil? Which is what this section's about. Ought ye not to have done even as I had commanded you? And after ye had planted the vineyard, and built the hedge round about, and set the watchmen upon the walls thereof, built the tower also. Remembering they were going through this because they did not build the temple. And set a watchman upon the tower, and watched for my vineyard, and not have fallen asleep, lest the enemy should come upon you. And behold, the watchman upon the tower would have seen the enemy while he was yet afar off. And then ye could have made ready and kept the enemy from breaking down the hedge thereof, and saved my vineyard from the hands of the destroyer. So this is the part one of this parable that Jesus is trying to tell them. He's like, look, if you guys had just built the tower, you started building, that's awesome. But if you had just built the tower, even got it going to where you had a watchman upon this tower, he could have helped you prepare for when the enemy comes. So this is the Lord saying, look, this is why you're going through all this stuff, because you did not build the temple. Now, concerning the redemption of Zion, let's keep going with verse 55. And the Lord of the vineyard said unto one of his servants, Go and gather together the resident of my servants, and take all the strength of mine house, which are my warriors, my young men, they that are of middle age also, among all my servants, who are of the strength of mine house, save those only whom I have appointed to tarry. And go ye straightway into the land of my vineyard, redeem my vineyard, for it is mine. I have bought it with money. The Lord has invested a lot in Zion in that sense. Therefore, get ye straightway into my land, break down the walls of mine enemies, throw down their tower, scatter their watchmen. That's an interesting way to look at this. And insomuch as they gather together against you, avenge me of mine enemies, that by and by I may come with the residue of mine house and possess the land. And the servant said unto his Lord, when shall these things be? And he said unto his servant, when I will, go ye straightway, do all things whatsoever I have commanded you. And this shall be my seal and blessing upon you, a faithful and a wise steward in the midst of mine house, a ruler of my kingdom. So he wants all of these people to gather together to go in and redeem Zion, help them to be faithful, help them to be wise. And his servant went straightway and did all the things whatsoever his Lord commanded him, and after many days all things were fulfilled. So here's this parable. They didn't build the temple, so what do? You gather in a group of people to go in and help them out. Guys, let me introduce you to a little time of church history called Zion's Camp. Okay, the whole purpose of this is to redeem Zion. Joseph Smith, the servant of the Lord, gathered all of these people together, and we're going to go and redeem Zion. So there's a little introduction to you for this week with regards to Zion's Camp, because you're going to see the next 2 days. So we're doing today, and then Tuesday and Wednesday, we're going to do a little bit with Zion's Camp, and then do something else with some of these other sections in here on Thursday and Friday. So enjoy Zion's Camp. It's a cool story. There's some great stuff in there, and you see why the Lord wants to redeem his chosen people, Zion. So anyway, thanks for watching, thanks for subscribing, and thank you for sharing these messages. If you haven't already, go check out our amazing socks, our gospel themed socks at bombsocks.com. You guys are awesome. Godspeed. See you tomorrow. Bye-bye.